Hello, and thank you for joining in today's cooking segment during the American Kidney Fund's Kidney Action Week. Kidney Action Week is our initiative to provide education on kidney disease prevention and management. We would like to thank U.S. Renal Care for sponsoring this event. My name is Linda Blaylock. I am the owner of CKD Culinary Consulting, and I am a professional cook. And I'm also a culinary consultant for American Kidney Fund, which means I get to test a lot of those great recipes that you're finding on. I also get to create some too. And if you would like to find me, I am at Facebook, and that's facebook.com/healthyhappyflavor. And if you'd like to find me on Instagram, it's instagram.com/CKD Culinary Consulting. And then, of course, my website, CKD Culinary Consulting. So today we're going to be making a recipe that I actually created for American Kidney Fund, and it's called Sloppy Joes. Now, depending on where you are in the U.S. or maybe even abroad, everybody calls it something different. But here we call it Sloppy Joes. So it only takes about 40 minutes to make if you're using either an Instapot or the skillet, about the same time. And it makes 8 slider-sized sandwiches. But we're also going to cover, if you don't have the slider size, what we can do with that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get to it. We're going to show you the ingredients. All right, here's our ingredients. And I'm going to walk through them with you, kind of quickly here. The recipe is going to be posted for you, so don't feel like you need to be scribbling everything down. First off, we have 2 tablespoons of the unsalted butter. We have 3/4 pounds of ground beef. This I chose 85%, just because we don't want to use anything lower than that because we're then going to be dealing with too much fat. And then we don't want to use anything that's higher because then we're dealing with too little fat. But, if all you can get is 80, that works too. So don't fret. Go ahead and get the 80. We have 1 cinnamon stick and 1 star anise. And what we want to do, because we don't want to be fishing these out later or have somebody, get it and bite into it, we want to put it into the, we can either use the disposable tea, it's like a sachet tea bag that you can use, or they now have the fancy little silicone kind that you can just go ahead, and they're not disposable, so we're not filling up landfills. Go ahead and just place those inside there, because we just want to make sure we get those flavors infused into everything. So that's why we want to keep them whole, and we're going to use them that way. So then we've got our minced garlic. And we also have some diced red onions. You can use white if you want to. I personally love using red just because it always adds beautiful colors into dishes. Here we have, it is the Mrs. Dash Chicken Griller Blend. Now I'm going to show this to you. With Mrs. Dash, of course, she has the salt-free seasoning blends, which are really great. However, make sure you are looking at the ingredients and everything on the nutrition label on the back, because a lot of times, like this one, there is potassium in there, and sometimes if you look at the ingredient list, there is a potassium preservative that is in some of them. So when you find that, you want to use smaller amounts. So just be aware of that, but Mrs. Dash, I think, is a really great line of products. Here, what I've done is I have taken 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now find, no salt or low sodium, always go for the lower sodium. I've taken 3 tablespoons and I've mixed it with enough water to make a 1/2 cup. Now basically we're doing this just because with tomato paste you get a more concentrated flavor of that tomato. And unfortunately that also means more potassium. We don't want extra liquid like the fresh tomatoes would supply, or even like the diced canned tomatoes would end up supplying. So to reduce that moisture, we're using the paste. And again, I've just mixed it up with that water until it's nice and smooth. And again, tomato sauce, you could potentially sub with tomato sauce, but again, you might be dealing with a little extra liquid. But if you want to go that route, that's okay too. So then we have our low sodium Worcestershire. We have some apple cider vinegar. We've got brown sugar. We've got some ground coriander. We've got some ground allspice. And then for this recipe, because we are using an Instapot and the Instapot creates extra moisture, we are going to be needing to use arrowroot. Now this may be on the shelf as arrowroot powder or flour or even starch. All the same thing. And the reason we're using the arrowroot is because cornstarch does not thicken acidic ingredients as well. It kind of struggles with that. So with the arrowroot, we want to use this because it has no problem with it at all. So if doing this in the Instapot, we will be using this. However, if you don't have an Instapot, you will probably not use this, but we'll cover that, okay? So let's go ahead and move on over to our pressure cooker. Okay, we have our Instapot here, and if you don't have this model, that's okay. Mine has preset timers on here, and if you don't have that, that's just fine. We'll go over that too. But what we're going to do is we are going to start by putting the butter into our Instapot, and we're going to press saute because we want to melt that butter, of course. Let's get that butter in there. Okay. There she goes. Okay, our butter's in there. And we're going to get that all nice and melted down. And this will take, a few minutes while this heats up. So as I had mentioned, if you do not have a pressure cooker and you need to do it in a pot, that's fine. And you will follow the instructions, and except when we would normally turn on the pressure cooker, instead you are going to cover the pan and you're going to let it simmer for 30 minutes. And that's really the only big difference, except for at the end, which we'll talk about with the arrowroot. Okay, you can hear that butter in there starting to sizzle a little bit, or a lot. We're going to go ahead. We're going to add in that ground beef. Let's throw it on in there. Now we just want to break it up and get that cooking, get it browned. We don't want to cook it fully. We want to cook it until there's a little bit, of pink still left. So maybe about halfway. But when you break this up, you do want it to be smaller chunks, but you don't want it to be super fine like a ground beef would be when you chop it down really far. But then, again, because this recipe, Sloppy Joe's is known all over the country by different names, you may like it to be chopped up smaller. So please feel free to go ahead and do what works for you. Okay, so you can probably see, let me show you where we're at here. You want to turn off the saute. And now if your pressure cooker doesn't have this function, go ahead and just do this in a skillet. And then you'll be adding it into your pressure cooker. So as you can see, hopefully, let me tilt that there. You've got a little bit of pink that's still left in there, and fairly good size crumble. Not too big, but not really, really fine either. So what we want to do from here is we are going to basically throw everything else in. So let's take the little sachet that we had. We're going to put that right there on top. We want those flavors to infuse into the beef. All right, so we're going to put in our onion, and we're going to throw in our garlic. Then we're going to put in the base of our sauce, which is that tomato paste with the water that we mixed up together. Put that right on in there. And give that a little bit of a stir if we want. Okay. We are going to throw in the Worcestershire and the apple cider vinegar. That's going to give us that nice tang. That Worcestershire is going to give us that nice savory. And then we've got our brown sugar, a little bit of sweetness, and our chicken griller blend. And then we also have our allspice and coriander. A little touch of flavors to help bring out some of the others. We're going to go ahead and just give this a good stir. We want to break down the brown sugar that's in here, you know, because when you scoop it out, it's always that nice, thick, compact little chunk. So, let me... Oh, that smells so good. Oh, I wish you guys could smell this. All right. So let me show you what we got here. All right, so we've got all of that stuff all mixed up a lot better, all combined there. And you can see, you know, the great big cute little cactus guy. All right, let's put that on in here. Okay, so what we're going to do is put the top on. If I can get it on. Hang on, guys, I always struggle. There we go. All right, seal it up. So with this, I am going to hit meat, and I'm going to reduce the time to 25. And it's a little bit longer than what the manufacturer might state, but that's because I just like to get everything really infused, and it really helps to make that beef really tender. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to let that do its little thing. And then when it's all done, we will come back and plate it up for you and show you what we got going on. Okay, so this is ready, and I've already released the pressure. And you don't have to, but you know, if you're in a hurry or you just can't wait, go ahead and release that pressure. And first thing I'm going to do is take out our little sachet, our little spice holder here. Get that out of the way. All right, so I'm going to show you a little bit here. We're all done. It's kind of hard to see tilting at that angle, but you can see, you know, how it's nice and brown and cooked, and we'll get a better shot in a minute with the arrowroot. The Instapot does create a lot of that extra moisture, and that's where we're going to use our arrowroot. Now this works just like cornstarch. So I've got a tablespoon of the arrowroot in here. So we're going to just add a tablespoon of water into our arrowroot and mix it up real good till it's nice and smooth. And again, it acts just like cornstarch does. Now with arrowroot, you do need to have it cooking. You need that heat in order to activate it. And what I found is with cooking, like with the pressure cooker or even in your skillet, if you do need this, if you've made this in a pot, if you do need this, you can go ahead and, if you want to, turn off the heat. Because honestly, everything is already so hot at that moment when it's done cooking. I haven't actually needed to have the heat on to make this work. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir the arrowroot in here, and that's going to thicken up everything, give it a nice delicious sauce. Put it in there and just keep stirring because that heat's going to activate it. There we go. Didn't take long. It's beautiful. Oh, I wish you guys could smell this. Okay, so this recipe makes 8 slider-sized sandwiches, and the recipe is calculated for 1 sandwich. However, take a look at the nutrition, and if you can have 2, go ahead and have 2. A lot of times what we like to do is pair this with like a creamy cucumber salad. You could also do maybe a 1/4 cup of fresh berries like cherries or raspberries or strawberries. That would pair really nicely with this as well. Get that sweet that goes with the tangy and slightly sweet in here. So I'm going to show you here kind of how this looks. If you can see that, nice and saucy. Now for the serving, you're going to want to do 1.5 ounces, which is basically about 3 tablespoons. So you can either use, I have a 1 ounce scoop here that I like to use, and I just do it 1.5 scoops. Or like I said, use the tablespoon and portion it out. That way you know you're getting the right amount. Let's talk about the buns. Pepperidge Farm. You guys, I love their line of products. They're the only ones that I have found that don't contain tons and tons of sodium, and in many of their products they don't use potassium or phosphorus as preservatives, and in the occasion that maybe they do, it's usually at the very end of the ingredient list, which means there's very little in there, so it'd be safer to use. Now this is the Pepperidge Farm, this is the white slider buns. Sometimes these can be hard to find. I don't know if it's just, the area I'm in and people are buying them like crazy. But I tell you, I stock up, I throw them in the freezer because sometimes they're difficult to find. So because of that, I also want to let you guys know, they also have their hamburger buns. Now, if you need to, this will work as well, if this is all that you can find. The sodium and such is going to be a little higher because we're talking about a bigger bun. And also, in making this, I'm going to show this to you guys. You can see the difference between the two. But I want to show you what it looks like when you're portioning it out. So obviously, because you're dealing with more bread, there's going to be, the ratio of bread to meat is going to be off. But if this is what you have to work with, by all means, do it. So let me show you guys. So like I said, my scooper here is a 1.5 ounce. So I am going to be scooping out the one, and then I'm only going to fill this one halfway. So that's the 1.5 or 3 tablespoons. So this is the sandwich that you're looking at. And you could have this, maybe as a snack. You could have it as a lunch. And perhaps if you are able to do, if you've been really good that day, you could do 2 sandwiches. You could have this as a lunch or a dinner. But I mean, this would be great for like at a barbecue or some kind of summertime meal. But we do have it in the winter. Believe me, we love this. So this is what your slider size is going to look like. Okay. Let's do the same thing on the hamburger size bun, just so you can see, what it's going to be like. So that's 1. That's equal to 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to do another half. So that's another tablespoon. So you can see, it's not too bad, really, if you look at it. But you are having that bigger ratio of bread than you are the meat. But it's still going to work, maybe not as, sloppy. Hey, sloppy joes, right? All right, so there you have it. So I hope you were able to enjoy watching today's cooking segment. And check out our other Kidney Kitchen website recipes. Find a whole bunch more. They're really great and delicious on there. And as a reminder, be sure to follow any recommendations from your doctor. Read the nutrition labels. And, share this with a friend. This is a, real quick, easy meal. Didn't take too long to make. And, feeds 8 servings, or if you're having 2 sandwiches, feeds 4. So it's perfect. So thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.